Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Important Old News. Today is June 9th, 2022. It's been about a month since my last episode. It's been a busy month. I took a road trip all the way from Arizona to Chicago, but I don't have time to talk about that right now. We have a lot to talk about on today's episode, so let's get right into it. Um, Today's episode, I'm going to talk about a topic related to all the mass shootings that have happened recently. Unfortunately, these school shootings, mass shootings, aren't anything new. They've been happening since I was in school. I graduated high school in 2001. They've been happening since before I was in high school, and they've been happening since before I was born. Uh, Specifically, I wanted to talk about a response to the Uvalde shooting that the United States Senator from Texas, the state that it happened in, had regarding on how to stop this type of thing from happening again. And I'm talking about Senator Ted Cruz. Shortly after the Uvalde shooting, he had an interview on Fox News where he made a couple of proposals on how to stop this type of thing from happening again. And at best, the proposals were uninformed or misinformed, whichever one. At worst, they were ridiculous, and I'm being polite there. So before we continue, let's just watch the clip of Ted Cruz on Fox News talking about his proposals on how to stop this type of thing from happening. So let's watch this clip on Fox, and then we'll continue from there. All right, here we go.
Mass murder that just happened. The something we can do is we can pass legislation. It's interesting. I was listening to what you were saying, Jesse. I've introduced legislation that would do much of that. In 2013, I introduced legislation that would spend $300 million on federal grants to harden schools, to make them safer, to make them more protected. The Democrats filibustered that legislation. I've introduced legislation to say schools like this elementary school behind me can get federal grants to harden their security, to put in bulletproof doors, bulletproof glass, to put in armed police officers to protect kids.
Pay attention to what he's saying. He's saying to harden the schools, like he wants to harden the schools, put in bulletproof doors, bulletproof windows, and armed guards, armed police to protect the schools. So just keep that in mind. That's like one of the main parts of his plan. All right, let's continue.
$0.3 billion in federal funds that are available. Again, the Democrats blocked a vote on it. And I got to say, this is frustrating here. This mass murderer came in through an unlocked door in the back of the school. It's the exact same way the mass murderer came into the school in Santa Fe, just outside of Houston. I was there that horrible morning.
Okay, I have to pause it there because that's false. He just said that the Uvalde shooter came into the school the same way that the Santa Fe shooter came into the school. That's false because the Santa Fe shooter was a student at the school that he was shooting, committing his crime at. Students have access to the school that they attend, regardless of what the doors are like or what the windows are like. The shooter in Uvalde, Texas, was not a student at the school where he committed the crime at. So for him to say it was the same is not honest, or I don't know how he would not know that as a senator from Texas talking about two new, relatively recent shootings. I mean, the Santa Fe one wasn't that long ago, and how would he not know that? Wait, what is it? Oh, that's not even. It's a commercial. Excuse me. All right. But anyways, I just had to point that out because that's just not even true. So the shooter in Santa Fe was a student, and as we all know, students have access to their school, regardless of the doors being bulletproof, the windows being bulletproof, or how many armed police are there. All right, let's continue.
I sat at round tables with the parents and families talking about how to make schools safer. And one of the things that everyone agreed is don't have all of these unlocked back doors. Have one door into and out of the school, and have that one door armed police officers at that door. If that had happened, if those federal grants had gone to this school, When that psychopath arrived, the armed police officers could have taken him out, and we'd have 19 children and 2 teachers still alive. We need to do something, but it's not empty political posturing. It's acting and acting strongly to keep our kids safe.
Yeah, you mentioned Beto O'Rourke crap.
Okay, so he said armed police at the door, one door in and out of the school, bulletproof windows and bulletproof doors, hardening the school. That's what he means by hardening the school. All right, we don't have that much time, but there's been a lot of school shootings in Texas history. I was gonna go over all of them briefly. I mean, like, there's a list on Wikipedia with sources, sourced lists, so you can look at them yourself. But we don't have time. There's so many that we don't have time to go through all of them. The list goes all the way back to the 19th century. So, for the sake of time, let's just briefly go over the shootings from 2013 and on, from where Senator Cruz says he proposed that bill to stop shootings, and let's see if his bill would have stopped any of these shootings based on what he's saying about, hardening the school with bulletproof windows, bulletproof doors, and now he's saying one door in and out with armed guards there. So, all right, 2013, Texas, January 2013, Lone Star College. Okay, this is a college. 2 men outside Lone Star College. 2 men get into an argument. One wounded the other. Also wounded a maintenance man. The shooter fled into the woods. So this one was outside the school. So what Cruz is proposing, it wouldn't have stopped this one. All right, next one. Houston, Texas, 2015. 1 person died, another person was injured after someone opened fire outside a Texas Southern University dorm. Okay, this is another college one, but again, his proposal wouldn't have stopped it because it was outside a dorm. And he's talking about making one entrance in and out of the school. So, for some reason, Senator Cruz doesn't seem to know that people do stuff outdoors on a school campus. But, all right, let's continue down the list. Alpine, Texas, a 14-year-old female student shot a 16-year-old girl in an Alpine high school restroom before committing suicide. Again, doors, guards wouldn't have prevented this one because the student had access to the school. They were able to get that weapon in the school and commit the shooting or do the shooting. Irving, Texas, 2017. Adrian Victor Torres killed a 20-year-old student, Janira Nicole Gonzalez, whom he was stalking. He fatally shot her 3 times, and the college went into lockdown before discovering that the suspect had died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. This one, what Cruz is talking about, maybe if there was just one way in and out of the campus, in and out of this college campus. I don't think that's what he's proposing, though. I think he's talking about elementary, middle, and high schools. He needs to be a little more specific with regard to activities outdoors on school campuses, because obviously what he's saying wouldn't stop that from happening, as it wouldn't have stopped this one. Well, this one, it's vague. All right, well, next one. Denison, Texas, 2018. Oh, that's like a negligent discharge. All right, 2018, Italy, Texas. A 16-year-old male student fired at a 15-year-old female classmate that he had briefly dated in the cafeteria. The gunman left the school immediately after opening fire and was arrested. Again, another student shooting another student in the cafeteria. So would hardened bulletproof doors and windows have stopped this one? No. All right. And then we get to the Santa Fe one. And for some reason, Cruz insisted in his statement that what he proposed would stop the Santa Fe shooting, but no, it wouldn't, because this shooter was a student, so he had access to the school. Even if the doors and windows were bulletproof, he still could get in, sneak his weapons in, and commit his mass shooting. All right, well, we don't have time to read the many more the many more mass shootings that have happened there. So basically, my point is that what Ted Cruz is proposing about hardening schools by putting in bulletproof doors, bulletproof windows, and bulletproof and armed guards at the front door, one door in and out. It's ridiculous, and it because the vast majority of Texas school shootings, uh, it wouldn't have done anything to stop them. As I just went down this list, we don't have time to read the whole list. His answer, he's just trying to tailor it to the Uvalde shooting because supposedly they said one of the doors was unlocked. It's still under investigation as to why it was unlocked. But even so, if a door is bulletproof, the lock can still malfunction. So that's not even a real solution, what he's proposing there. Also, as I explained before, Mr. Cruz doesn't seem to know that people do stuff outside on a school campus. There's a lot of examples of school shootings happening outside on the campus. Again, we don't have time to go over all of them because there's so many. So that's basically my point, is his proposals are very misinformed, and it's surprising that a United States senator wouldn't know about this, about his own state. I think maybe he does, and maybe he's just being misleading for political reasons, which he's done before, according to this Washington Post article. Ted Cruz's misleading memories of his 2013 gun proposal, to which this Washington Post article quotes Cruz as saying, Sutherland Springs, the worst church shooting in U.S. history, a small town outside of San Antonio. If Grassley Cruz, that's the name of his proposal, had passed, there's a very good chance Sutherland Springs never would have happened because the criminal who had committed a felony was ineligible to buy guns. The Obama Air Force, remember I'm still quoting Ted Cruz here, the Obama Air Force never reported his conviction to the background database, and when he tried to illegally buy the gun, his conviction wasn't there. He was allowed to buy the gun, and he murdered those people. If Grassley Cruz had passed, they would have prosecuted him. They would have put him in jail, and he would have been in a jail cell instead of in that beautiful sanctuary. End quote. The Washington Post then goes on to said this claim is highly misleading. The man who committed the 2017 mass shooting in a Texas church passed federal background checks and was able to purchase firearms because of a string of errors at the Air Force that Cruz's legislation would not have prevented. And then it goes into detail in the article. You can read the article yourself. I don't have time to read it. It's a Washington Post article by Salvador Rizzo. So as you can see, he's done this before, where he'll say, my proposal would have stopped this, when in fact it wouldn't have. And then he tries to tailor his answer to whatever shooting he's talking about. Anyways, that was a lot. The time goes by fast. And that's all we have time for today. That's all I wanted to talk about. We'll talk about some other stuff related to this topic in another episode, but that's all we have for today. Just think about why he might be either ignorant of these things about like schools where people actually do stuff outside. Students have access to their school regardless of the bulletproof status of the doors and windows, and so on and so forth. Why he doesn't know that, or why he's misleading us about that. Just kind of think about that, and we'll see you next time on Important Old News.